Hi everyone, my name is Susan Strebig and I have been a registered nurse for just over 18 years. Today I will be presenting on the Tuskegee syphilis study. Through this presentation, we will examine this study to help us better understand important ethical and legal concepts involved in research. I will talk about how this unethical study has impacted society for many years and will likely continue to have an impact. Since the Tuskegee study was halted, the U.S. has continued to develop laws and policies regarding ethical research. Many guidelines have been developed to help ensure the safety and privacy of human research subjects. This presentation will show how the Tuskegee study helped to change research. First of all, why was the Tuskegee syphilis study started? How did it begin? Well, researchers in the early 1900s wanted to learn more about syphilis. At the time, it was a widespread disease, but not very well understood. They wanted to learn how to better diagnose it, what its long-term effects were, and how to better treat it. Some of the treatments at the time were poisons, such as arsenic and mercury. These treatments were sometimes even fatal. Researchers wanted to determine if treatment benefits outweighed the risks. Also, syphilis was found to be more prevalent in blacks. They wanted to know why. Were black people genetically more susceptible to the disease, or were socioeconomic factors involved, like poverty? These questions led to the decision by the Public Health Services to study untreated syphilis in African Americans. The Tuskegee Institute was chosen to do the research for its excellent medical facilities. The black human subjects were recruited by word of mouth and were told they would be tested and treated for bad blood, which at that time was a general term for many conditions. In total, 616 black men were recruited, 412 with syphilis and 204 without. The researchers' goal of the study was to perform autopsies on the bodies of these untreated men in order to help them learn more about the disease. The study was officially named the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. The Tuskegee study was unethical from the start. Researchers used coercion and deception to get these black men to participate. They were made promises of free medical care, free transportation to and from the hospital, free food, and free burial upon their death. These men were poor farmers, and many had never even been to a doctor before. They were only told they had, quote, bad blood, and were not told that they had syphilis. These men thought they were getting treatments, when in reality they were only getting placebos like aspirin and vitamins. And even after penicillin was found to be an effective treatment for syphilis in 1947, treatment was still withheld in order to keep the research going. Untreated syphilis can cause blindness, insanity, death, and many other severe health problems. There are three basic ethical principles that should be followed when doing research on human subjects, and the Tuskegee study defied all of them. The first principle is respect for persons. These men were denied their autonomy to make an informed decision that was best for them. They were lied to about the purpose of the study and coerced into participating. There was no informed consent obtained. The second principle, beneficence, is where the purpose of a research study should be to do good, and benefits should outweigh the risks. The whole purpose of this study was for these men to die from syphilis so their bodies could be studied after death. And even after penicillin was found to be effective, treatment was withheld. Justice is the third principle. Racism was a factor in this study. Why were only Black men chosen for this study? Some people even questioned if researchers even believed these men were human. Next are the issues of negligence and malpractice. The medical community was fully aware of this study going on. The study started in 1932. Penicillin was found to be effective in 1947. But it wasn't until 1965 before another physician voiced concerns that there were unethical treatments taking place. His concerns were ignored. A year later, in 1966, an investigator also had concerns, but the research continued on. Public health services actually convinced physicians to not treat participants so research could continue. The study finally ended in 1972 after being leaked to the press and made public. All of these researchers and doctors involved, or even the ones aware of the happenings, were guilty of malpractice. They were negligent in giving proper treatment. The Tuskegee study harmed and killed many people, but it also continues to impact our society. This study has been blamed for one of the reasons Black people do not trust doctors or the healthcare system. They are worried they will not be told the truth and that they will be used as guinea pigs. This distrust has contributed to health disparities in the Black community. We could see this throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Black people seem to have higher numbers of COVID cases, and even once the vaccine became available, they were less willing to get it. African Americans are also not as willing to participate in research. African Americans are 12% of the country, but only 5% of clinical trials. This unwillingness to be part of trials and studies limits the end results. Data collection is limited due to the lack of diversity in the study population. So what can be done to get all races, religions, and cultures to be more willing to participate in clinical trials? Well, researchers, doctors, and healthcare providers need to develop cultural competency and cultural proficiency. The first step is being aware of one's own culture and beliefs, and then to be open and willing to learn about other cultures. Acknowledge your perceptions on other cultures, and then educate yourself on the truths. Cultural competency is important to provide better communication and trust with patients and research subjects. When doing research, it is important to have a diverse team to work with. Participants will be more comfortable when the person they are working with is more like them. I know it's hard to believe, but some good things did come out of this study. The U.S. was determined to ensure research on humans would be conducted ethically. In 1974, the National Research Act was signed. The National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research was then created. This commission identified the basic principles of research, made informed consent a requirement, and required there to be an institutional review board in place to review all studies involving human subjects to ensure ethical standards were being followed. In 1979, the Belmont Report was published. This report described the three basic principles of research: respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. As the years have gone on, the government continues to review and update research guidelines. This slide supports the fact that the U.S. is committed to ensure safety in research studies and that they will be conducted ethically. To conclude, the benefit to learning about the Tuskegee syphilis study is to make sure history does not repeat itself. Nothing like this should ever happen again. Research needs to be conducted ethically with respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Research participants should be fully informed and sign an informed consent. Participation should be voluntary. No coercion or bribery should take place. Participants should be free to change their mind and drop out at any time. When research is conducted following all of these principles and guidelines, human subjects will be safe and protected from unethical treatment. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this presentation informative and that it helped you develop a better understanding of the important concepts of ethical research. Have a great day.